Direct from the Six, world-renowned, Canada's largest city, with Canada's biggest thinkers, visionaries, and hustlers. This is Startup Talk, featuring the founders, funders, innovators, and community leaders who've led Canada's startup ecosystem right here in Toronto. You'll hear the challenges, the failures, the successes. Toronto's Startup Podcast gives you the full story direct from the entrepreneurs and influencers who've made a difference. Now, the host of Startup Talk, the founder of TorontoStarts, the Startup Coach.
About your new book, The Paradox of Expectations.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the book is obviously inspired by the experience I had building and selling the business and, realizing how much of my own experience and my own knowledge as an anthropologist really played a role in helping me tap into sort of this not so logical side of the marketplace, what I call the cultural dynamics. So Paradox of Expectation is really inspired by that. It covers two important aspects. One is, I meet so many people who talk themselves out of things. And a large part of that is because the world places expectations on us, and we don't realize how often those expectations actually reshape our own internal desires. A great example of this is, why does every founder believe they need to go to a VC? Because that's what's told of them. And, you look at every startup publication, they celebrate fundraising as if these companies have gone and gotten 100 clients. The world is upside down. Meanwhile, there's hardly any articles about companies doing well, companies being profitable, companies having amazing impact on other companies, on their customers. Very little about that. All the coverage is, so-and-so raised 4 million in Series A. And so the Paradox of Expectation really teaches you what I call the 5 movements, the 5 ways in which you can, A, recognize how the world is shaping your own ideas of what is success as an entrepreneur. And it's really a book for anybody who either wants to get into entrepreneurship, a side hustle, or they want to dive full-time into the field. And it's really about leveraging these 5 steps, these 5 movements in order to do exactly that. Recognize what those tension points are, figure out how to leverage that to create a safe space for you to experiment, like that Dominique Brown story I was sharing with you. Build initial credibility, then expand on that credibility to scale and build a sustainable, resilient business. I talk about resiliency a lot because to me, a resilient business is one that can stand on its 2 feet, doesn't necessarily need outside funding to survive. And then if you go get funding, it's for the right reasons, exactly as what you were alluding to earlier. So that's really what the book is about. And, I'm working with a fantastic publisher. It's going to be out in 2026. I'm doing a lot of research and sort of deep into the writing process at the moment. So, I will also share, some initial chapters with other entrepreneurs to get feedback along the way as well. So it's a really rewarding experience going through this now post-exit.
Adrian, great question about MVP versus MSP. We'll get to that. I just want to finish breaking down this conversation. How does cultural anthropology intersect with sales, and how has the unique perspective helped you uncover hidden buyer motivations?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things, and a few of those things we talked about already with this idea of expectations. The biggest thing I think that anthropology teaches you is to understand sort of what we call the hidden requirements behind anything. Right. So, and then there's many things that impact how you go to market and how you sell. And I'll give you some very tangible examples. What does a classic salesperson do in B2B sales? They hop on and they start by saying, "Thank you so much for making the time, dear customer." Every little thing you say and do implies something. It tells the prospect something about you. So what happens when you thank the prospect for making time? You have straight away told them that their time is more valuable than yours. So the way anthropology impacted us is that anthropology is about the study of language. So we distilled down to what language we need to use in a sales call that allows us to maintain authority, credibility, allows us to make sure that we're on equal footing with the prospect, maintain control over the narrative. I'll give you another example of this. One of the common ways in which people lose control is they talk about features and benefits. Oh my God, how many calls have we all been on where there's a 50-minute discussion of features and benefits, right? Very little discussion of expectations and how we can help meet those expectations. So, we had this mantra where if we had a 30-minute call, 20 minutes of it would be about expectations. 10 minutes of it would be about the technology and how it can help meet it. And once you've built credibility and authority with the prospect, call 2, call 3, that equation, that ratio can change. That's okay. But you first need to do the work to build authority and credibility. And these kinds of nuanced, ideas, we pulled it apart so much that every salesperson had to use the exact same language, exact same, we are all used to scripts, but not necessarily a script, but there was a way we had to introduce ourselves. There was a way we had to conduct ourselves. There was a way we had to look on the call. Every little thing we had deconstructed. And it all made a huge difference because our cost of acquisition was so freaking low. We were at 5 million ARR, and we had one salesperson. Nowadays, you look at a startup at 1 million ARR, they'll have 7 salespeople and a head of sales that they've just hired out of Salesforce.com. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of this really helps in terms of managing costs and really maximizing throughput.
Where do people go to find out more?
You can go to Investment Arc, but Arc is spelled with a K, so investmentark.net. That's my investment company. So if you're a startup and you need some assistance, that's where to find me. And then, of course, my newsletter, Decision Lab. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Please don't hesitate to connect with me. And again, Craig will have a link to my LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah, and all that'll be there. And I'll throw a link to the newsletter in the chat on LinkedIn. I see a couple of people asking it in an hour or so after the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you all for the great questions. And thank you for the great interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Startup Talk, Toronto's startup podcast. For more exclusive content, the episode vault, and to be part of Toronto's Starts community, visit TorontoStarts.com. Get your name on the newsletter mailing list and check out our upcoming events. For more episodes, subscribe now. And please recognize the time and work behind the scenes put into connecting you with the biggest visionaries, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Toronto by leaving a 5-star review. Join us for more next episode from Toronto's most active entrepreneur and startup community on Startup Talk.